If we could call Japan after 3/11, the the new Japan, what kind of new roles should the new Japan be able to play in the rapidly changing world, as you said?
I think there are a number of roles that Japan can play, and they're on a number of different levels. The first one is, I think, Japan is going through a process of, as we've just discussed, redefining what its economic role or what the Japanese economy will look like as we go into the future. And Japan has been an incredibly successful economy that has gone through some rough times in the past 20 years. So Japan can play a leadership role in economic adjustment and how an economy, because eventually the Chinese economy and the growth economies of today, the world moves at a lot faster pace these days, will begin to mature. And so therefore Japan can play a leadership role in that. I think the other thing is that one thing that we have come to learn over the past year is with the problems we've seen in the United States, with the Lehman shock, in the problems we're seeing in Greece and that Japan is a very, very stable society. And I think Japan can therefore play a major role in the world stage as an anchor, because it is such a stable society. It may be only one member of a broader group, but it can bring that role of stability that unfortunately a lot of other economies can't. I think a lot of people for some time described Japan as boring, but now people are beginning to realize the boring is actually very reassuring in stability, and Japan has a very stable society. And the other area is that in spite of 20 years of very depressed growth in the economy, Japan has actually made some major strides. We probably have the best health insurance system in the world. The infrastructure, look how many tall buildings have now been created in Japan. The internet infrastructure, compared to what it was 10 years ago, it's now one of the best in the world. And so even though Japan has been going through troubles, the incredible resilience of Japanese companies to keep pursuing that one single strategic aim over the long term is something which a lot of other economies can't do, and I think the world can learn from Japan in that sense as well.
And how about Japanese corporations, big businesses? What kind of transformation do they need in order to become truly global entities or players?
My view is that it doesn't matter whether you're a Toyota, or it doesn't matter whether you're a Mitsubishi Corporation, or it doesn't matter which company you are. Essentially, the word company, by definition, is about the people. And Japan was incredibly successful during the 1960s and 1970s and the first part of the 80s with Japanese people going overseas and doing business with Japanese people. I think the challenge for Japanese corporations is human resource diversification. And it's very easy for American or European companies because they live in very diverse societies. In Japan, it is a lot more challenging because Japan is an island country, and 98% of the people in Japan are Japanese who have similar education backgrounds, similar religious backgrounds, and similar society backgrounds. And so diversity is not something that is very easy for perhaps Japanese to get used to. But it will be that diversity that will help build the Japanese companies of the future. And so how they can effectively not only innovate in the product area, but also innovate in ways that they work with their employees in other countries will be key as to whether they can really become global companies or not. I often feel quite sad when I see a number of foreign students in Japan who are having their education financed through a scholarship by Japanese ODAs. And yet when they come to graduate with their MBA and they want to find a job with a Japanese company, they can't find a job with a Japanese company because the Japanese company says your Japanese is not good enough, or other reasons. And so these people who have the Japanese been using Japanese taxpayers' money end up going and joining American companies or European companies, and I think that's a great loss. The internationalization and globalization of HR policies within Japanese companies, I think, is something that they really need to tackle very quickly in order to become truly global.
I see. And what are you going to do, have this country, Japan, go forward? And what is Edelman going to do for it? And what kind of messages do you give to the people over the world?
Personally, I've spent 2/3 of my life in Japan, and so if there's any way that I can play a bridge between Japan and the rest of the world and use that experience in communicating the reality of Japan, because I think at the moment there is, I think it's fun to bash Japan at the moment for a lot of overseas media particularly. It's fun to say Japan is inefficient and doesn't work well. I think the earthquake and the tsunami disaster changed that. People are now beginning to understand that the reality of Japan is that in fact it does work very well. So anything I can do personally to continue to advertise the fact that Japan is a very vibrant and a great economy that has still a lot of opportunity here. And particularly, if I can do anything personally, to encourage young Japanese people to take the opportunity to go overseas to study or to work and have the opposite experience that perhaps I had, and therefore be able to contribute to their society in that way. As Edelman, we're a PR company, and so and I think Japan does have a PR problem. Japan has never been terribly good at telling the world how good Japan is, and perhaps we need to start doing that a little bit better. And it's not only in areas like bringing tourism to Tohoku. I think it's a lot of areas where Japan needs to become a little bit more sophisticated in the way it does its communication with the world. So if there's anything we at Edelman can do to assist that process, we'd certainly be delighted to do so.
And lastly, do you think we would be able to see kind of Japan dreams again?
I certainly think so. I certainly think so. And I think at the moment we're going through the process of deciding what those dreams might be. And I don't think those dreams are necessarily having the highest GDP growth in the world. I don't think those dreams are owning 3 Louis Vuitton bags. I think it's a very different dream, perhaps. And what we're really struggling now is both with the generation gap and with the economic leadership to define exactly what those dreams would be. But I'm very confident that Japan will once again be seen to be a country that is very respected and very well loved by the world, but also a country where people perceive there is great opportunity, both for foreign companies who want to come here and work, but also for young Japanese particularly, who are living in Japan. I'm sure they will come to see that their country is one of great opportunity.
Thanks very much, Mr. Rowbury.
Thank you.
Thanks.